Thank you very much, Sam. And thank you also for the organizers of this forum to give me an opportunity to share my experiences in the work that we've been doing on issues of poultry production, not only in Kenya, but across the continent, and trying to bring out the topic of poultry welfare and why it's important, and also bringing in all the other key dynamics that we cannot avoid that are part and parcel of Africa as a continent, and how do we come up with a holistic way to address these issues and cater for all the key components, from the welfare of the chicken to the needs of our farmers and also the consumers and also the environment at the end of the day. So first of all, I hope that I'm audible enough and that you can hear me clearly.
Yes, I can hear you.
So
Can we confirm? Can you hear him?
Yes, I can hear you, Sam. I hope the rest can also hear me too.
Yes.
So yes, thank you for that confirmation. So let me also thank Dr. Olasemi because his presentation to some extent actually mirrors what I'll be highlighting today. Maybe it might take a different angle, just trying to highlight in terms of what we have been doing here in Kenya and in some other countries across the continent. So I think I'll introduce myself again. My name is Dr. Denis Bahati, and my background is veterinary practice. And I work for an organization called Africa Network for Animal Welfare. We are a Pan-African based institution here in Kenya. And we have a vision where we envision a continent where people show compassion, care, and protection for all animal species, including chicken. And our vision focuses on working with different stakeholders, from farmers to communities, governments, policymakers, and other key stakeholders in trying to bring out the issue of animal welfare and why it's important in driving so many different components, including increasing the productivity of our different farmers. So it's a key component that we cannot avoid, and it's something that we need to appreciate at the end of the day. So like I said, this is who we are as an organization and what we stand for. And we believe that animal welfare cannot stand alone. It's something that also encompasses other components. And most important, the aspect of driving growth and development in the different sectors, whether it's the livestock industry or in the sector of environmental conservation and protection. So I'll give just a brief in terms of the poultry industry in my country. And I've highlighted figures there just to give you an idea in terms of what is happening here in my country, in terms of the population of the poultry that we're keeping. And in terms of percentage, the ones that we have which are indigenous, the ones which are exotic, and also the percentage also for the breeding stock. So you can see that like the rest of Africa, a majority of our poultry is indigenous, and it's kept by quite a number of households across the country. So we also have other species of birds, from ducks to geese to turkeys, ostriches, and quite a number. And this information is based on the Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, and Fisheries. So in terms of geographical location, most of the indigenous chicken, you'll find them in rural areas. And then a majority of the exotic, which are the broilers and the layers, you'll find them in peri-urban and urban centers. And this is because that's where the biggest demand for this chicken are, both for meat and also for poultry products. And then in terms of the importance of the poultry industry in my country, in Kenya, poultry provide the cheapest source of proteins. And it's a sector that is quite important in terms of not only supporting quite a number of livelihoods, but also creating employment and also bringing quite a number of youth in my country out of the struggles of unemployment and other issues that they're facing. So as the years have been progressing, the demand for chicken and poultry products has actually been going up, and based on the FAO, you can see that 92.6% of the population frequently eat chicken meat, and the consumption is projected to rise over the next 3 decades. And then we slaughter approximately 50 million birds every year. And in terms of meat, we have 92,000 tons. And for egg consumption, we have it at 245,000 tons. So it can show you how this sector is very, very important, and how it contributes to not only the livelihoods, but quite a number of other economic aspects in my country. So this is not a new topic, and like I said, Dr. Olasemi highlighted quite a lot in this, in terms of how welfare is very, very key and very, very important in improving the overall productivity of the animals that we keep. And this is just a highlight of what is essential when it comes to providing for the welfare needs of these animals. And it's something that not only farmers, but also veterinary practitioners need to appreciate and understand, because at the end of the day, number one, we know that nutrition is very, very key in any production system. So providing the proper feed and ensuring that there is availability of clean and safe water for these birds is very, very important. And then the aspect of housing, that is also something that we cannot avoid. It's something that's also very, very key, ensuring that birds are in an environment where they can move, they can stand, they can turn around, and basically just exercise their normal and natural behavior. That is very, very key. We cannot dispute that. And then, like all other animal species, including humans, we understand that animals are also social beings. The aspect of appreciating that animals are sentient beings, and even having that companionship to them is also very, very important. So understanding that animals not only have instrumental value, but they also have some level of moral value, and they also appreciate quite a number of things that also us as humans appreciate. So in terms of housing, like I've said, it's also good to ensure that the housing that you provide the bird also protects them from extreme weather conditions. It's quite important. And then the aspect of disease prevention, injury, and any other vices. It's recommended that we ensure that we keep our birds healthy, ensure that we do routine vaccinations to prevent any disease outbreaks that might arise. So these 5 elements just point to the 5 freedoms, the overall tool that we use to do assessment of animal welfare, and it's a guide to any farmer, any practitioner when it comes to assessing the welfare needs of these birds. Because if you achieve 4 of them and you leave 1 out, then it means your bird will not operate at 100% optimum productivity. So it's quite important that we appreciate this as people who are key in the poultry industry, and push this message so that people understand that the welfare of these birds is very, very important. Okay, so in terms of poultry housing, I'll just highlight, and this is very, very similar to what you are also having in Nigeria. I think one thing that we've actually appreciated is that Africa, like they usually say, is a big village. So what is happening in West Africa is not different from what is happening in East Africa. And it's similar to other parts of the continent in terms of the different housing systems that we are having for the poultry that we keep. So like I said, in my country, the biggest system that's currently being adopted is the free range system, and you will find this in almost every homestead. across the country, and it might not be majorly for commercial purposes, but people just keep chicken because it's one of the common livestock that we keep here in Kenya. And then we have the deep litter system, which falls under the category of the semi-intensive and the intensive system. And these are quite common in urban and peri-urban areas where the demand for meat and eggs is quite high. And then we have the battery housing system, which is also gaining momentum here in Kenya. It's based on a research that we did. We found that the number of farmers who have actually adopted this system, there are not many if you look at the overall country outlook. But it's something that's slowly gaining momentum because farmers have realized that it's a system that, according to production, has quite a number of benefits, although it also has quite a number of detrimental effects when it comes to issues of welfare. And then we also have a fourth housing system, which is a new system that has been introduced. And it's something similar to what Dr. Olasemi had said, something that we are seeing in the European countries that's being adopted to cater for the welfare needs of these birds. So here you have a combined indoor and outdoor housing to ensure that the welfare considerations of the birds are taken care of, and also you maintain a high productivity as a farmer. So now there's something very, very important that I wanted to highlight in terms of the emerging trends within the poultry industry here in Kenya, and why it's a discussion that we are not only having here in Kenya, but I think it's a discussion that we will be having across the continent as we move ahead. And this is something that also was highlighted in the previous presentation, but I wanted to give a live example of what is happening at here in Kenya. And this is a new article that was published in March of 18th, 2022 of Carrefour retail marketer, and their mother organization, which is based in Dubai, introduced a new animal welfare policy. And this policy is supposed to trickle down all the way up to all their branches across the world. And they're basically saying that by 2030, they will stop sourcing eggs from farmers who are doing caged farming. Now, this is quite a significant move because even here in my country, it's something that has already taken effect, and Carrefour have already gone ahead and started sourcing their eggs from identified farmers who are raising their hens in cage-free systems. Now, I'm saying this because it's a big blow to our farmers, especially the ones who have been keeping chicken in cages, because when you have a global shift in the market dynamics, irrespective of whether you want to use a system or not, the change will meet you, and you will have to change at some point. It's not something that you can avoid. So it's a lesson that we are learning here in the country, and quite a number of farmers have been affected by this, but there's already that change in market dynamic, and this is the direction that we're moving. It's not only Carrefour that have done this, but there are quite a number of other retail markets which are now moving from sourcing their eggs from caged farmers to now cage-free farmers. And it's something that I think our farmers need to realize and see how do they now incorporate systems that will not ensure that they lose out on their business. Now, the other aspect that has been gaining momentum in my country is the aspect of antimicrobial resistance. And I'm sure this is a topic that you have heard before. And one of the biggest issues that we've been facing in Kenya is, especially on farmers who are using intensive production systems like the battery cage, is the aspect of inappropriate use of antimicrobials when it comes to dealing with specific diseases among their flock. And you'd find that the issue of isolation and quarantine of specific sick birds is not that commonly done in this specific system. So you'd find farmers, what they will do, they will just add antibiotics on the watering system of the whole water system that is providing water to these birds. And you find all birds are ingesting these antimicrobials. And this basically brings a big issue when it comes to antimicrobial resistance. So this is another issue that has come up. And basically what is happening in Kenya is that consumers are becoming more aware of what they're eating. And they're demanding that farmers use practices and systems which will ensure that the food that they will be eating at the end of the day is food that is safe and healthy for not only them, but also for their families. The other aspect that I also wanted to highlight, because we have just concluded on the Africa Climate Summit just a few weeks ago. And one of the things that was highlighted and that came out strongly is the aspect of industrialized farming and how it's contributing to the issue of greenhouse gas emissions. And you could see that quite a number of government representatives across Africa were pointing out and highlighting how they will now support food systems which will ensure that we do not go to a point where we are having environmental issues and environmental pollution. And I'm saying this because it's something that's going to affect even the policies which will be developed in the future in terms of looking at systems which do not lead to environmental pollution. And we all know how systems like the battery cage have contributed in terms of massive pollution, not only of emission of gases, but also the issue of waste management and how it contributes to environmental pollution. Now, the other thing that I also wanted to highlight, and is something that has also gained momentum based on research that we've done in Kenya, is that our consumers are now becoming more aware, and they are questioning basically what is ending up on their plate. And it's not only on poultry alone, but it cuts across all livestock species. And consumers are now demanding better, healthy, and safe products at the end of the day. So they want to know, how are these animals being raised? Are they raised in an animal welfare friendly way? What are these chicken being given in terms of, are there any misuse of antibiotics and stuff like that? So the more consumers demand for better products, I can rest assure you that at some point, our farmers will be required to come up with better ways of raising their chicken and ways that ensure that not only the welfare of the bird is catered for, but also other dynamics which ensure that whatever people are consuming at the end of the day is healthy for them. Okay. Now, the other thing that I also wanted to highlight, and this now cuts across in terms of what we have been seeing happening across the continent, because we have been doing quite a number of research on issues of poultry production across the continent, and not only Kenya, but we've done some bit of work in East, West, and also Southern parts of Africa. And like I said, what we've realized is that the dynamics are almost the same. And one of the key things that I would say, for example, like in the aspect of the policy and legal frameworks when it comes to issues of poultry development in Africa, we really have a big gap in that end, because we have very, very poor laws which are not specific when it comes to issues of poultry. And it's one area that I think we as Africans we really need to see how we can improve and change on that. The other thing that I also wanted to highlight is that the changes that we've been seeing in my country, they are not going to affect us alone, but because we have these retail outlets across the continent, at some point, farmers in Africa will be affected. Now, I wanted to highlight on the ban that was made by the European Union at some point, because they decided to issue a directive in 1999 that gave their farmers up to almost 13 years to slowly phase out the use of battery cages. And one of the things that I know Africans we are struggling a lot on is how to penetrate the international market when it comes to issues of our livestock products. And this has actually also been highlighted by the previous presenter, is that if we do not make major changes in our production systems as we move along, we are at risk of losing quite a big market for our products. And this one eventually will mean that livelihoods will be affected, economies will be affected, because poultry production contributes quite a lot in the different countries that we have been working with. So if we do not make those changes as early as now, we're not saying that we will have a ban immediately. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's a discussion that I believe we need to have as Africans. And like the CEO of HDNA had said, is that we need to have an Afrocentric approach and come up with a solution that not only caters for the welfare of these birds, but also caters for the immediate and pressing needs of Africans. And we cannot set aside that we are struggling with issues of unemployment, we are struggling with issues of food security, we are struggling with issues of lack of income. So we really need to sit down and discuss and ask ourselves what would be the best approach. It might not be the same as the one which is being done in other countries, but it's a discussion that we cannot avoid. So the earlier we have that discussion, I think the better for all of us. I think the other one is also the change in market dynamics, like I initially highlighted, that quite a number of main outlets are coming up with animal welfare policies, and they're also committing that they will phase the use of not the use, but supply. They will stop sourcing eggs from people who are doing caged chicken farming. So what does that mean to our farmers? It means loss of market. So how do we ensure that our farmers are not not impacted by this? Because we know that our farmers have invested quite a lot of money. They've invested quite a number of resources in putting up these specific systems. So how do we ensure that we protect our farmers at the end of the day? And then the other thing which is also important is, I think also as Africans, consumers are demanding for better products, and that's something that we cannot avoid. And based on even the research that we've done, we've seen there are areas where consumers are willing to have products labeled, and for farmers to put the standards that were used when these birds were being raised, or how those products ended up on their plate. So it's something also that we cannot avoid. So I think overall it's a discussion that we need to have. It's us sitting down and having that discussion not only with our farmers, but with also our veterinary practitioners, our extension officers, everyone who is in the poultry supply chain and also the poultry development industry. And we ask ourselves, how can we better this industry? How can we create awareness and sensitization amongst our farmers so that they are aware of these changes which are happening globally? How do we also sit down with our policy makers and tell them that we need better laws, we need better policies that cater for all these issues, including animal welfare? So I think that's a discussion that needs to be encouraged. But I know the future is very, 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 very bright. And Africa is showing direction in so many ways, not only on issues of climate change, but also on issues of ensuring that we have a robust animal resource industry. So thank you very much. Sam, I think I will now give it back to you.